In the mix with DJ Rambo Rich.
Okay, so welcome to the What's That Music About podcast. I'm your host, DJ Rambo Rich. And in this episode, we're speaking to singer-songwriter Maria Marr about her music. And to start that off, with no further ado, I'm just going to get you to introduce yourself. So firstly, thanks for coming on the podcast, Maria, and just introduce yourself.
Hi there, thank you for having me. It's Maria Marr, and I'm a singer-songwriter. I have been into music for a really long time, so I'm very excited about the questions that you've got for me today.
Perfect. Yeah, so I think what we're going to do now is go to the first round, which is mixtapes and memories. And then we'll be back 1 second with that. Okay, so this is mixtapes and memories, and in mixtapes and memories, we talk about the past memories and the past memories that helped shape your musical influences today. So to start that off, what's your first memory of music?
I think my first memory of music was actually when I learned how to play the violin, and I used to also sing in the church as a young child. So singing and playing the violin, those were my ways into music, if you like. And I guess from then on, I developed more of a passion and I started to get into it and build to where I am today, I guess.
Oh, great. So do you remember, so what was your first performance like? What was I'm guessing it was probably childhood from what you've said there, but I'll let you answer. But yeah, so what's the first performance you remember when you maybe you just got into singing? What's the standout first performance that you can remember?
So my first performance was when I was 13 years old and I went to a singing competition. And I still remember how nervous I was, although I had practiced so much.
Yeah.
Just knowing that I'd be getting up on stage in front of hundreds of people. And often these competitions used to be judged, so you would get like a first or a second or third place. And it felt as a child that there was a lot of pressure with that to do really well. And yeah, I think the nerves were just out of this world at that point.
So how did you, in that situation, how did you deal with the nerves? Was there anything you
I
did
think
that helped you?
I think as a performer, when you start singing, when you're on stage, you just get into your element and
Mm,
somehow those nerves just disappear and you start focusing on what you're actually doing. And I think it's more that build up of knowing that you're going to be on stage and you're gonna have to perform, but actually when you're doing it, you manage to get yourself in that zone and you get through it.
definitely, I can relate with that a little bit from I did musical theatre, so I can relate with that a little bit. I was always a bit not apprehensive, but I was I could feel the butterflies in the stomach. But I got to the point, I don't know about yourself, but I got to the point where if I didn't have that feeling, I'd be more nervous, if you can understand that. Because I feel like sometimes having nerves is a good thing to show that you actually truly care about something. Because there was one occasion where I didn't have nerves, and I was like, okay, why am I not nervous about this? So it's interesting, isn't it, how your body can tell you how you feel about something like that.
I agree with what you said. I think it's because as a performer, whatever it is that you do, whether you are a singer or you're an actor, that is your craft. It's something that you really value and it's so important to you and you want to do it right. I did musical theatre as well. I actually played the part of Maria in West Side Story.
Wow, I'm liking this.
That was when that was doing my A levels actually in sixth form. It was a school production and I auditioned for the part. I really felt that musical theatre might be something that I would explore more. And I did end up touring with a local theatre company for a few months. We performed some shows, and yeah, it was something that did cross my mind going down that route. I really loved it.
While we're on the subject of musical theatre, I do feel like acting, musical theatre, any sort of a performance-based thing is just a good sort of primer for life in general. because I think it teaches you so many skills that are transferable to just general employment. It's like showing up on time, being organized, and it also helps with the confidence side of things, like maybe deal with customers and stuff like that. So I feel like anyone out there is listening, like if you're a younger person, say, and you're stuck what to do, I would say go and do something for performance based, because the skills that it teaches you are invaluable. Because especially confident, I know a lot of people these days aren't confident, and I feel like that would give them the confidence. So it's interesting that you were touching upon that. But to ask you another question about the earlier years in music for you. So what was it? Now, obviously, you're a similar age to me, so I can ask this question. I always forget about this with the younger guests I have. So what was the first sort of physical music that you bought?
So that would have been because I was actually born in Romania. There won't be perhaps artists that you would have heard of. It would have been more of, we had quite a lot of American influence or, Spanish influences. But the music that I really got into, it was this band called Rebelde. They were actually, I think they were definitely based and that was the music that I really enjoyed because I loved speaking Spanish, and it was something that I really remember as a child listening to in my bedroom and singing the songs. And
Yeah.
I think getting into those times where perhaps you're getting a little bit older and yeah, you're starting to make those connections between the music and your life experiences as well.
I love that. Like I say, I mean, it's always interesting where, like, I've interviewed quite a few American people on this so far, and they always have like different people. So it's always good when it's someone that has not like originally sort of like grew up in the UK. I always love like finding out what were they sort of listening to, because I'm a DJ. Like, I'm always interested in like different things. Like, I know like my era of British like music when I was a kid, but it's always interesting like what was going on elsewhere. Because I feel like I'm always looking to find like new and interesting music. So you saying about that is quite interesting. So when I edit this, I'll go and look up that group and see what they're about, because I always like to expand it, because you never know where you're going to find the next great track to play at a gig. That's what I'm always looking for. So I will certainly look at those up. So the next question I'm going to ask you is, so what is the earliest memory of you with music and singing that you feel has had the biggest influence on your music career so far? So I realize sometimes I don't ask easy questions, but I wanted to ask something a bit thoughtful. So I thought about
No, I mean, that takes me back to the time where I wrote my first song, and there was this national competition back in Romania, which was called Children's Mamaya, and it was about children writing songs and then going into this televised competition
that. Right.
and singing their songs live. And I remember that the song that I wrote, they couldn't quite believe that I wrote it.
Right.
They were thinking, is there definitely not a ghostwriter behind you or somebody else who wrote the song? I remember actually the director of the competition at the time rang me personally and asked me, did you definitely write this song? And I said, yes, I definitely wrote that song. And it was amazing because the competition was held at the seaside. And that meant that leading up to it, I got to spend 2 weeks there because we had rehearsals with dancers, being on stage. And what is more interesting, my singing teacher, my singing coach at the time, she used to be a very big singer in Romania.
Right.
And I used to travel to Bucharest to have lessons every week. And she actually had a song in the competition too. I was this 13-year-old and she was, someone who had been really famous, and we were competing in the same category. And actually, that was the time where, one, it was my first live appearance on TV, and that was totally nerve-wracking.
I can imagine, yeah.
And not only that, but actually singing your own song for the first time. I
Yeah.
mean, even now that would, scare me a little bit. But I guess I was, maybe braver back then.
I know what you mean. Like, I totally get what you're saying there with the sort of like your first song, and you're performing it for the first time. Because eventually I'm going to get into production, and I have been working on some things. And I was thinking this the other day. It's funny you mentioned this, but like I wonder, you're like when you probably put stuff out, it's a bit anticipated. Like people are going to understand what I'm trying to like, because you have this idea in your mind of how you want that song to go, but then you make the idea and then you put it out there, and you wonder sometimes if people will like understand what you're and like enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? What I'm trying to say?
I would say I totally get where you're coming from because every time I post something, especially if it's an original song, I am terrified
Yeah,
because I just think this is now out in the open. This is not just me playing the piano at home or, to my close friends. This is actually now out there for people to listen and react to how they want, really, depending on how they find the music. So I don't think that changes. I guess, regardless of how experienced you are, when you're writing songs and they are your personal experiences, it's almost like opening up your diary for someone to read.
yeah,
Really personal.
totally. I'm totally with that. Like I say, yeah, like I suppose it's a bit like when you start having like, imagine would you have like shows and events coming up, and you like if you're selling tickets, or for me personally, I always DJ, so it's like events or like venues, and you wonder, are people gonna? It's similar to like, are people gonna turn up? Are they gonna like this stuff? Are people gonna just leave before all happens? These are things you're like running through your head. You're like, is this gonna work out? Are people going to enjoy the music I'm playing, or would the music you're singing? And you sort of like you sort of have to just take your mind out of that and sort of like just do your best really at sometimes.
And I think as well with anything creative, you have that tendency to doubt yourself and
Mm,
question your creative process. And I guess until you have that validation where other people join in with you and they understand where you're coming from, they understand that song, they find those connections, that's when you actually think, okay, I can do this. I'm okay at doing this. People are liking it. It's approval, I guess. And I know that as an artist, you don't necessarily, you don't do things for the approval, but you do it for people to enjoy it.
mm,
I know I write songs because in the same way that I go to my favorite songs, maybe when I feel sad or when I feel happy, I've got those go-to songs that I've connected with. You want the same for the people that listen to your music. You want them to connect to what you are writing and actually find that comfort at times in songs that you've written.
definitely, definitely. I think we're going to move on to the next round now, which is on repeat. So 1 second, and we'll be back. Okay, so this is on repeat, and in on repeat we talk about we discuss the present and what you're currently working on. So to start that off, what are your current challenges with music at the moment?
So at the moment, I guess the current challenges are around getting back in a studio. We all know that being an artist, especially when you're an independent artist, it's not easy to get yourself into a recording studio and get your songs produced. I have been working over the last few months. I've been writing songs because what I would like is to release an album. I've
Yeah,
released I've released EPs before and lots of singles, but I would really like to release an album because I feel like I'm at the stage in my life where there's a lot that I've learned and a lot that I'd like to reflect on and put that together in a
yeah,
collection, if you like.
definitely. I like what you're saying. You saying there, like there's a lot you've learned. Like as I get older personally, I've realised how much more mature I'm getting in certain situations. You think, God, the younger version of me would have fallen apart in this situation, but no, it's good. So it's interesting you say that because I can relate there a little bit. As you get older, you sort of reflect, don't you, on like past experiences, and you think, gosh, how did I get through this? And yeah,
And I think as well that as an artist, there's no hiding from the fact that you have to deal with a lot of rejection
Yeah.
because there are times where, opportunities go past you, you miss them, or things don't go the way that you planned. And I think finding that way to deal with it and reinvent yourself, dust yourself off, get yourself back up, only comes with experience. Because in the same way that you're saying, actually, if that happened to me a long time ago, I would have reacted really differently.
Yeah.
I think you do develop that maturity. And I would say I'm a better artist now than I was in the past because of what I've learned along the way and how I can deal with things and manage.
Definitely, like I say, I mean, also, this isn't related to music, but I've become an uncle like 3 times from my sisters had kids. So I feel like there's a responsibility as an uncle to, be a good role model and that. So I'm so soft now as well because I'm an uncle. It's really softened me. I mean, this isn't music related, but I'm so, like, literally, I love those kids to death, I tell you.
I mean, I totally understand that because I'm a fairly new mum, um, and that's completely changed.
Mm,
When you become a parent or you have something that changes your life completely, and then you're trying to find that balance and
yeah,
still do the things that you love, but
yeah.
then be a parent in addition to doing the things that you love. I think there's a lot to be said about navigating through those times.
I think also, from what I've seen from from being like an uncle, I think it's probably really important for a parent's well-being to have that time to do the things that you enjoy. But obviously, as you say, it is a balance of trying to fit that in amongst being a parent. So I hope you don't mind me asking, but how sort of do you manage that? Something I've always wondered, like, if I was ever a parent, like how I would manage all these things.
So, the first thing I would say about it, there is something that I love in the way that I can see how I'm inspiring my little girl to be into music and to have this interest and to sing out loud in the house and ask actually the other night when I settled her to sleep, she asked to listen to one of my songs when she went to bed, and she's got a very particular music choice for
Yeah.
bedtime, and I genuinely felt flattered.
Oh,
I thought
that's
I've
nice.
made it as an artist. My
Yeah.
little girl has asked to listen to mummy's song before bed. But going back to your question, how I navigate it, I have to be super organized. That's the
Yeah.
honest answer. And I have to work one step ahead, always know what I'm doing next, plan in advance, because I know that things can go in a different way. If I'm needed as a mum, I have to do that. I have to tend to
Yeah.
that. That is, my daily reality. But equally, music is such a big part of who I am that I really cannot let it go. So I have to find a way to make it work.
I mean, I totally get that. If I'm ever doing any DJ practice or stuff, and my nephew and nieces come in my room, I'm like, yeah, press some of the buttons, see what it does, have fun, because I think it's good because children are naturally curious as they obviously are growing. I never would, when it comes to things like creative, like music and that, I would never sort of shut that down. So if they're interested, I'll show them, you know what I mean? Like I say, my nephew and nieces, like, what? No, press this button, it plays it. Press that button, it stops it. You can change the beats, you can mix it. And I let my eldest niece have a go, and she was sort of like, I don't know how she did learn this, but she started to scratch on the decks and everything. I was like, okay, so you're the next prodigy of mine, are you? So yeah, like I say, but it's good that like sharing music with your family. I always think because like I played "Pump Up the Jam." I don't know if you've ever heard that song, and my youngest niece started to boogie to it. So yeah, it's nice to know that like as the kids are in families that like they like music the same like you. So it's definitely interesting, isn't it? Like to be able to like pass that on to them, isn't it?
And I think especially because my mom was a singer too, but she gave it up when I was born, and I genuinely thought that that would be the case for me too. I didn't know whether I could continue to do what I love whilst also being a mum. And
Mm.
I know that may sound, a little bit, I don't know, over the top to say that, oh, I didn't think I could do this anymore. But actually, your life changes so much. And as you're trying to find that balance and how to do even the simple things, let alone, things that take up a lot of your time and a lot of your focus. But yeah, I think it can be done. I think it can be done.
Definitely. I mean, it's like, I suppose it's like what things, because when you get to the end of your life, you think, what other things that I'm going to think, oh, wish I'd done that. Do you know what I mean? Because I had a family member who was my granddad's second wife, and she, when she was younger, got an offer to go to RADA to do opera. She was a really quite good opera singer, but she never do it because her parents said in those days, it was the olden days, that wasn't the thing, unfortunately, for women to go and do, unfortunately. So her parents said, no, you can't go to London on your own as a woman. You can't do that. And then she always used to mention it, and I could always just feel like the regret in her voice.
Yeah.
It's so good that you've managed to actually, stay the course with that, because you don't want to get to the end of life and think, oh my gosh, I've left so much on the table. I didn't do these things. And I'm always thinking, what am I doing currently now that I'm leaving stuff on the table? Do you know what I mean?
I feel like you've read my mind because these are the sort of thoughts that have been going through my head over the last few months where I've genuinely had those moments where I question myself and thought, if in 20 years' time I'm looking back, what are the things that I wish I'd done? And I think it's so important to have those times in life where you just pause and you really think about the things that you love doing and prioritize doing those, because there's nothing you can do once time has passed and
Yeah.
you're looking back and thinking, oh, well, I could have done this, or I could be here, but I didn't even try. I think actually, as much as it's scary, or you might not end up where you want to get to, if you just give it a try, at
Yeah.
least you can say, well, you know what? I've tried it my whole life, or I've tried as hard as I could. It didn't work out, but it wasn't because I didn't try. It wasn't because I gave up on it.
So, what are, I don't know if I've asked this. One second. So currently, like in the current space of time, what does success look like for you?
I think for me, I love performing live and I love engaging with an audience. And I think as an artist, you have those dreams where whenever you watch someone playing live and you see people, singing along to the songs, just being in the moment, I guess that's what I'd like. I just
Hmm.
like to
Yeah.
share my music with other people and just sort of take them on board on that journey of songwriting and all of the stories that I'm trying to tell.
I get what you're saying there. Like when I DJ, I try and I don't go for like the popular songs. Obviously, I do at times, but I do sort of go for feeling more than anything. And like, what does this make me feel? And can I make the audience that are at the venue I'm at feel the same things? Like I'm currently working on a like a set, and it's sort of themed about love, and it's about love basically, and it's about like the many forms of love. So it could be like romantic, it could just be like love for just life. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm going very deep here.
It's
Anyway,
fine.
but no, but like I totally get what you're saying there. I know what you're trying to say. Basically, I get what you're saying. Like it is just that's why I always ask the question, what does success look like? Because I feel like what success is very different for two people. Because, for example, if you have a fitness goal, two people's fitness goals are not the same.
Absolutely.
And you know, for example, when you if you go out running and someone passes you, and like some people can be very, I've passed you, you know, I'm faster than you, and all this, and I'm never fussed about that because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what they're doing because my goal is to hit certain targets. So if they pass me in the street, it doesn't matter because their goals don't affect my goals. My goal is my trajectory, and I think very much music is like that with people. Like two artists could have very different goals, and like one could look more successful than the other. But if that's their aim isn't like worldwide fame, for example, and they just want to make good music, well then they've achieved their goal. They might not be as famous or popular, but they've achieved their goal. So yeah, I forgot what we're talking about, but I felt I
I
was going.
think no,
I went with something there, so I went with it.
yeah. So it was about what success looks like, and I think I agree with what you say in the sense that you should never compare
Hmm.
yourself. You're not benchmarking yourself against other people. You're actually trying to improve what you are doing. You can get inspiration from other people because I think we live in a world where we can learn so much and there's always room for improvement in anything that you do. I feel like I've studied music so much and I've sang for so long, but actually, I know there are things that I can do better. So if you are happy with what you're doing, and like you say, the things that for me, if somebody messages me and actually says, I love your music, I love to see you play live, to me, that feels like that is me being successful because I've actually, even whether it's one person, 10
Yeah,
people,
definitely. Yeah,
if somebody actually says, I love to see you play live because I really like your music and what you're sharing, to me, that is success. That is being successful because my music is meeting that objective. I'm connecting with people and they are responding.
definitely. I mean, it is nice when someone says that. I feel like I know it doesn't. I don't want to say that it gives you like sort of like confirmation that you're doing the right thing, but it does make like you know all those difficult moments or like late nights trying to like do stuff towards your music. It does make it sort of not worthwhile because you would do it anyway, wouldn't you? But like it does make it like it does make the next time you have like a late night trying to get something sorted or a long day trying to do something related to your music, it does make it like sort of all the more worthwhile because there's someone out there that appreciates it. And like, if you can make one person's day just a little bit better by music, I feel like it's always worth it, isn't it?
And yeah, I mean, what I've started doing because I'm always planning ahead. I've got like my planner of what I'm doing, whatever I'm performing. And I've also started to write down if I have any days where I'm doubting myself and I'm feeling like, is this good enough? Am I doing the right thing? I started to write it down so that I can go back to it and actually, you know, find those times. It's okay to have those times where you're doubting yourself and you're
Yeah,
genuinely thinking, should I even be doing this? Like, am I wasting my time? But that's just natural because we are such big critics, for ourselves. We're always wanting to improve and sometimes improve too fast. We want
yeah,
to do things. And I think that we can become quite harsh on ourselves because of that.
definitely. I think it's back to what we were saying earlier. It's that internal voice, isn't it? Like of just, you know, am I doing this? You know, am I doing the right things here? This could be better. I mean, like we could always. There's always something you could like critique yourself, but you've just got to have like faith and just believe that you're going in the right path. And generally, I don't know about you personally, but your experiences, but I always find the things I fear never really actually happen. They're just all stuff in your head flying around that you're worrying for no reason. It just never really happens. So 99% of the time, you're worrying for no reason. So it's just wasted energy, isn't it? Like, let's just not worry about it. But it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to sort of switch that off.
But I think equally. it is important when you do have those doubts, it is important to validate them, and it is important to step back and actually see them for what they are, that they are thoughts, they are doubts, they're not reality, but be aware that they are there, but just let them pass, let them go.
Definitely, definitely. I think we want to move on to discography. So 1 second and we'll be back. Okay, so this is discography, where we talk about our guest's music today and talk about all the music she's released. So to start that off, so I was looking on your Spotify and I noticed that the top tracks on there were What I Missed in School. I'm sorry, I can't even read my own writing. Show me that you. Sorry, it's my writing. It's terrible. Show me that you can hear me somehow, and forget about it. So, what is your? I know it's hard because it probably changes all the time. So, what's your favorite tracks of your music?
So Forget About is my favorite dance around the house song.
Yeah,
That's one where I really explored different type of songwriting, because a lot of the times I would maybe go for more ballads or things that were quite emotional. But Forget About It tells a story, but it's upbeat. It is, in essence, it is still a breakup song. It's about identifying that a relationship is not going anywhere anymore, and that person is stuck in your head, but you're actually saying that in a more upbeat, positive way. I
yeah,
can't forget about the way that, you got me, the way that you got me into you. And yeah, so it's my favorite for that reason. What I Missed in Class is on, so I actually wrote that one. So the lyrics of that song start, I've been staring at the picture from when I was 5. I was actually sat at my piano when I wrote that song, and there was a picture from my first day of school on my piano. And
right.
I was genuinely staring at the picture from when I was 5. And that's where that reflection started of, actually, there's so much I didn't know back then. And I've learned so much since then. And it then goes back into that idea of, there are things that you've learned in school that they don't prepare you for real life. And when you first have your heartbreak, so your first heartbreak is something that you definitely don't learn about in school. And then you find your way of coping with
Yeah,
that.
I totally agree with that.
So that's what I missed in class. And Show Me Somehow, that song is really personal to me, because it was written about my experience on the X Factor when I was 18. And I actually went
Right.
on the show. It didn't go how I thought it would. And I was actually, told that I was wasting my time, that I shouldn't be singing. And that's what that song is about. It's called Hear Me Somehow. It's about doubting yourself and coming from a really vulnerable place where you're actually being told that you shouldn't be doing something or you're not good enough, and finding that strength to get yourself back up and actually prove that, no, I can do it. I am good enough.
And just to check, that was Show Me That You Can.
And that was Hear Me Somehow.
Yeah, right, I just wanted to make sure. Hear me somehow. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, it just broke up there. You see a little bit, so I didn't hear that part. You see, so sorry about that. But
Yes.
yeah, I mean, that's an interesting story there. So how did you deal with that situation?
So it happened in the summer before I started my university degree, which funnily enough was going to be in singing. And I had just been told that I should not be singing, but I had a place at a university to study singing. So I genuinely, when it first happened, I genuinely thought that I was done with music.
Yeah,
I didn't sing for a few months because I just didn't want to. I didn't feel like I was good enough. I genuinely didn't feel like I was good enough, because I guess from experiences, seeing other people going on the show and I was going for them, I didn't think that that's how it would turn out to be. And it was tough, because even as I went through years, even, after I finished my degree and continued to write songs and do things, it would still crop up. And there was that seed of doubt, actually, when you do have those natural moments where you are questioning your creativity, you're questioning whether you are good enough as an artist, as a musician, to have something like that as well, it only makes those doubts more powerful because there's almost um, an element of those fears being validated, those thoughts being validated, actually being told you are not good, you're wasting your time as a singer. That's a really bold statement, to say to someone about something that they love doing.
Definitely. I'm going to just interject here. I think, to be honest with you, and I'm not saying this just to be nice, but if you just look at any of your posts, right, if you ever have this doubt ever again, I'm going to get rid of this doubt for you now straight away. And this isn't me being nice. I just genuinely think this. If you look at your posts on Instagram, look at the comments underneath them. They all say pretty much the same thing. They enjoy your music. They've listened to your music. They've clearly enjoyed it. It's obviously given them a lot of pleasure. That doubt should not exist. That person was wrong. I don't know, whoever told you that is wrong. And this is not me not being nice. And this is me not being just nice because you're on here. I'd say this anyway. Like, forget that. I think back in those days, it was all a ploy just to get people to watch it. And I think nowadays, they can't say things like that because of mental health. The world's changed now. You have to be a bit more, you have to be polite to people. You can't just say anything you think now. And I think the fact that they said that to you is crazy because they were clearly wrong. And just look at the comments. Just look at the comments on your videos. I mean, I was on your YouTube, for example. I always do my research on people before I interview them, right? And I'm not saying this to be nice. People in the comments of this, by the way, I'm genuinely mean it. Like, listen, like some of your video, I mean, one of your videos, it had thousands of watches, right? If it was terrible, I don't think people would watch it. It might have 100 views, but not the figures you're getting. No way.
Thank you. I think what I might have to do is when this is out, I might just crop out this clip and save it on my phone. So when I'm doubting myself, I just keep playing it back. I'm like, no,
Yeah,
okay.
no worries, but that's perfectly fine. But like I say, I don't. When I hear people say this that are clearly talented, I'm not saying this just to be nice. When I hear people say this that are clearly talented, obviously, because I always say, if anyone that listens to this regularly, I always say spread love, and spread love through music. It's the two things. I mean, I've said it so much; it's become a catchphrase of mine. But I generally think that is the only way we can change the world is to spread love because you just want to, and it's a good thing for the world. And then if you can spread love through music, then that's even better. That's why I do music, because as a DJ, I feel I have a duty and an obligation to, make people's day a little bit nicer from the interactions we have. And I think, we're getting off topic a little bit here, but like I say, this is why I started this podcast, is because I saw people super talented, right? And they had like 6 views, right? 6 views or what it was, or just, and it was going through Spotify. This is where I found these people. And I was like, how are these people going to be found that are super talented? How are they going to be found? I thought, well, do you know what? What did the old school DJs used to do? When I was a kid, DJs, right? They'd find people and they'd nurture that talent and they'd help them get out there. Now, a lot of people, DJs, still do that. But like, I feel as I'm coming up, it's my job to, help people have a platform with this podcast to get out there. So definitely, that person was 100% wrong. I'm on the record there saying that. 100% wrong. It's not me being nice. We've gone off a little bit of a tangent here, but I love the tangents. Sometimes they're the best moments. But like I say, 100% wrong. Look at any of your comments on your videos or on YouTube or Instagram. 100% wrong. You never need to think that ever again. Never again.
Thank you. I do agree that we've come a long way from then, and I think that everybody's so mindful now about how they interact with each other, even on social media. I just think I love supporting other musicians too. That's something that, as well as being a musician myself, I really like to show support because I just think, like we said earlier, I'm not competing with other artists, and it's okay for someone to be, better. It's okay for someone to have a better song or perform better. And I think that it's just about supporting each other and building that community of musicians and people who are into music. And yeah, that's just what I love.
So just to go back to your music a second. So my favourite tracks out of the one I mentioned before is, I think I've wrote it down wrong. Is it Show Me That You Can?
Show me that you can, yes.
I put on here, I've put So Me That I Can. I'm so dyslexic at her. I am actually dyslexic, just if anyone listens and they're like, why are you picking on the dyslexics? I am so dyslexic because I am dyslexic. So sometimes I write things a bit peculiar. But no, so Show Me That You Can. I like it, obvious reasons, because it is sort of a dance track, isn't it?
So again, with that one, I ventured out a little bit into um, different songwriting. I actually wrote that song specifically for the Eurovision, so I submitted it
Do you know what?
for the Eurovision.
It's funny you said that, because when I listened to it, I was thinking about the Eurovision last week because it's nearly Eurovision thing, and it's my favourite show thing that thing comes on. And then when I listened to that today, I was like, "Do you know what? It does remind me like of sort of like Eurovision vibes." So you saying that has like totally validated it for me there. Definitely, definitely. So yeah, you were saying about
So
writing it.
actually, so actually, it worked. Yes, that song is in the story is in the title. Show me that you can. It's about making the most of every moment. And if you watch the music video, which actually took 3 days to film, it was quite a complex storyline that I had in my mind, and it took us a long time to make it come to fruition. But in essence, you see me as this person who's doing really well, and then also me as a homeless person, really aspiring for better and trying to do things. And I'm looking up at this girl who's in the salon looking nice. I guess it's sometimes realizing that you should value what you've got, because for the person sitting in that chair, being the really privileged person, do you really stop and think, I'm so lucky because of all the things that I've got, and making the most of every moment and really enjoying life for what it is, because it is wonderful. And so that's the story behind the song, just making the most of every moment you've got and being grateful.
I like what you're saying there, because the other day I put something on my DJ Instagram about, like, as British people, we always complain about like the buses being late and like trains being late. And I was thinking like the other day, I'm always complaining about that. But then I thought, hang on a minute, I am lucky enough to live in a country where I actually have a bus to miss. I have a bus, I have a train to miss. Generally, if I miss that bus, I'm going to get another bus. It's going to happen. But I was thinking, maybe I should be thinking about it. I'm lucky enough to live in a country to miss a bus, miss a train. They can be late. But I'm lucky enough to actually have that situation, where some people, they don't have that situation. They barely even have a country, to be honest with you, or food or anything. I think, you saying about being humble, like, I was having the thought the other day, I was like, I'm lucky enough to have that to complain about. And I'm trying to like change the way you think about it. I'm lucky enough to have that to actually complain about. And I think sometimes we take those things for granted.
And I think as well, someone once told me, not related to music, but actually told me about every single day when you wake up, try to look for a glimmer. So it might be that where you're walking on the street and a complete stranger smiles at you, smile back, or actually take the time to look around you, look up at the sky, listen to the birds. Like spring is my favorite season,
Definitely.
actually. Seeing the trees in blossom, listening to birds, and genuinely just taking those small things and starting your day in a positive way and thinking, actually, this is good. Life is good. I've got all of these things to enjoy and to look forward to. Um, so yeah, when I say I've learned a lot last year, I've learned a lot, James.
Definitely, definitely. Two things I noticed about when I looked up your music on YouTube, Spotify. So you've got your original, like your own music that you've wrote yourself, and then you've got the covers. Now I've noted here, Stay, a cover of a Rihanna song, and then Thinking Out Loud, a cover of an Ed Sheeran song. I quite like the fact that you've sort of thought, I'll have my original stuff. That's one thing I do. That's one sort of tool in my toolkit, and then I've got the covers. That's another tool in my toolkit. So how did that come about?
So the covers, I think, came about from me enjoying other music and just loving other songs. I ultimately really enjoy singing the songs that I write, but I think there are so many great songs out there and so many inspiring musicians. And when you hear something and you think, well, I think I can put my own spin on this, or
Yeah,
I think that I can connect with this song in a different way, I guess that's where the covers come from. And ultimately, it's all about those connections with the audience, with other people, where you might perform a familiar song. It's different when you share an original song because you haven't played it as much or people may not have heard it as much. And I guess it just gives you a different way to connect with your audience.
I suppose it's a bit like, I always think like, like the really popular, like we talk about like covers, for example, like the popular songs that like like they'll live in history of music forever. I always describe them a bit like a relationship, because you sort of it's like like a person, isn't it? You know that person, you know everything about it, and it's the same with that song, and like the bit you're gonna sing along to, But with like its original stuff, you sort of have to build that sort of relationship, and then over time it develops into something new. And now I know I'm doing the relationship analogy there, but I find it's very similar in the way people react with music. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, so it's ultimately what you're familiar with. It's about things that when you hear, your brain suddenly goes, "Oh, I know this," or this is my favorite song. This makes me feel in this certain way because I've experienced it before. And I guess when you listen to a song for the first time, the first thing you do is you try to find those connections. You're trying to find times when have I felt like this? For example, yeah. So when I released a cover of Easy of Me by Adele, now that I am a mum, I found a completely different connection to that song than if I listened to it beforehand, because I really understood the element of going easy on yourself from a different point of view. Because I think as a parent, you're always questioning yourself, am I doing the right thing? Am I being a good parent? Is this the right way to do things? And I guess as you go through life and you experience new things, the way that you experience your favorite songs changes because you understand them from a different point of view. Like I was just recording a cover of Shallow um, by Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper, and actually, when I stopped to think about it, the song really means, it links so much to what we've been talking about. Those regrets, are you actually taking a big risk to follow what you love, or are you just sitting in, paddling in the shallow bit because you're
Yeah,
not quite sure that you want to fully commit and dive into that deep end?
definitely. I'm totally with you there. So what music do you have coming up?
So I am working. I'd like to be back in the studio in the next couple of months. I've got a few live performances lined up, which are in London, and I will be announcing on my Instagram page. My next one actually is next month on the 15th of April at Karma Sanctum in London, and that is a really lovely opportunity. It's a songwriter showcase and in a very intimate setting. And I think that's
Yeah,
what I'm looking forward to, being able to connect with the audience on that level and talk about the story behind the songs. And in terms of songs that I've written, I definitely have some new songs coming where I've reflected on the last couple of years and the things that I've experienced, because it hasn't been easy. Being a new mom hasn't been particularly easy. And I wrote a song about that, but I also wrote a song about the different love that I'm experiencing, being a new mom. So this is my music at the moment. The songs that I've written have are covering so many different aspects of my life and the things that I've learned and I'm experiencing. So I think they come from a completely different place of being more mature and being wiser.
Yeah, I totally get that. Definitely. I mean, like I say, I know I always say like spread love, but I genuinely always mean it, because I think like that's the only way to make the world a better place is through kindness, love, seeing the other side. I mean, when I was a kid, we always had this saying like agree to disagree. And I think, you know, if someone like yourself is putting that music out there from that angle, then you can't really go wrong, I don't think. What was you were going to say something, sorry.
Yeah, I think I am always very open about my experiences, and I don't know if that has come from being a songwriter, but how I feel about it is that if I'm honest about struggling with something, then someone else comes into the conversation and says, actually, I've struggled with that too. I think it makes it okay to have those tough moments.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to do. And in one of the songs that I've written, actually, the thread running through it is that you don't really know what's going on through somebody's life,
Mm.
and actually remember to be to be kind before you crush someone or before you judge somebody because of the way that they are, or they are reacting. So yeah, that song is a really personal one, and I do look forward to sharing it and recording it in the studio.
I can really like being dyslexic. I've had a lot of people like maybe they don't know that they're being mean, but like they they're sort of being mean, but because they don't know I'm just like maybe they don't know I'm dyslexic, or they don't know how to deal with someone that's dyslexic. They could say things or do things inadvertently, and it could upset me, or it could make me feel like I'm stupid or silly or whatever it may be. And I totally get what you're saying there, like not to sort of judge or assume things before you have like sort of the full picture. And yeah, I can really relate there. I think what we're going to do now, just because of time, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. We'll just go on to the last round, which is Dream Big. So 1 second, and we'll be back. Okay, so this is Dream Big, and in Dream Big we talk about the future, and we ask our guests what are the big dreams for the future. So to start that off, what is your biggest ambition for your music?
My biggest ambitions for I'm gonna start again.
It's right. I know I'm the same. I just waffle otherwise. So don't worry. I probably waffled a
But
lot
it
here.
was
So
all coming out okay in my brain. My biggest ambition for my music is to reach as many people as possible. This year, I really want to perform live. So I've got, like I said, I've got a few gigs in London, but I would like to reach out and go and perform in different cities, um, and really start to build that community and have more people come to watch me perform live. I'm really all about that experience of being a musician, sharing the moment with somebody and connecting with someone through the music. And I feel like to me that's the right reason to want to be an artist and to want to be a musician, to be able to reach as many people and do what you
definitely, definitely. So this is a tricky question, just to warn you, because mine on this question, mine change daily, and I think it depends what you've listened to or watched. So here we go. We'll try anyway. So what are your dream artists to collaborate with? It's tricky, I know.
Okay, so I think I've always been influenced ever since, I started writing songs and performing live. I've always liked the music of Lana Del Rey. I've liked the theme of the songs. I've liked how they can sometimes be a little bit dark in the way that they're telling a story. Obviously, her vocals are really unique. The sound, I really feel at home when I sing Lana Del Rey songs. Another artist that I really like is Dua Lipa. Again, I feel like this
I'm
style.
with you here. I'm with you here. I love Dua Lipa.
And actually, someone was saying to me the other day, "Oh, I really liked your song. It was Show Me That You Can Again," because it's like I really like Dua Lipa, and I felt like your voice really reminded me of her. And this is not me saying that I'm trying to copy somebody, but there are elements and influences that you do try to get from other artists.
Yeah.
And one of the covers that I think has been, well, my most successful so far and really had amazing responses was the Freya Ridings Lost Without You. And I guess that when I perform, I either dive really deeply into that performance and it's really soft, or it's um, really gentle and really vulnerable, which is what you have from Freya Riding's music and song, or you've got that little bit of darker storyline, storytelling, and maybe deeper vocals, slightly different tone from Lana Del Rey. So I guess because when I was at university, I studied vocals for 3 years and learned how to sing in different styles. I can't say that I'm a pro at singing everything. Certainly not a heavy metal person. That's what I found when I was at university. I'm not.
Neither am I.
But it was still a genre that I had to be able to sing. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I've learned so much about my voice and I'm constantly learning that it really helps when you're trying to tell a story in a certain way if you can really adapt and you can really fine tune your performance in that way.
I love some of the mentions there, especially the Frey Riding song. What was the song called? I think I'm Lost Without You.
Lost Without You, yeah.
I mean, that is my go-to. I'm not ashamed to say this as a man. If I need to cry, that is the song that's going on my headphones. Just get it all out. It's sorted. You've dealt with the emotions there. I mean, it is a really good breakup song, isn't it? Essentially, like.
And you know what I like about it? I think that it's also about times where perhaps you've let someone go or you thought that you wanted to let someone go and actually thinking, oh, you know, that's not what I was expecting or that's not how I wanted this to go.
Yeah.
I don't know if she had more when she wrote the song, if she had more references about maybe when she was younger, because there's that element of, you said, I want to see the world, and I said go, which leads me to believe that it's more about someone being quite young and really wanting to learn more about themselves, perhaps, and not wanting to be in a relationship at that.
So is there any other dreams that like I've not mentioned there that you thought like ever since like a kid or what it may be that you thought, one day that would be great? Like for me personally, to write a James Bond theme would be like a cool thing on the mantle, but that's me being too British, I tell you. But anyways, back to you. So yeah, is there anything that you have thought, that'd be cool?
I think, honestly, ever since I was a 5-year-old child, I've always wanted to be a singer. I think that has been my thing. And whenever, people would say everybody wants to be a singer, or, everyone has that dream, but it genuinely just has been my passion my entire life. So I guess that's the one thing that I've always wanted to do.
I love that. Like sometimes people can go like for lofty heights or like big things like I want to perform at the Grammys, but I love that you've said there that no, I just want to be a singer. I love that. It's great. So obviously before I asked you what does success look like now, so in the future, what does success look like?
In the future, like I said, I'd like to have more performances, bigger performances, bigger crowds, and just like I mentioned earlier, being able to connect with as many people as possible and share that passion for music.
Okay, so the final question now. So this is the back off the back of the answer you've given there. So what is your dream location or festival to play? If they called you today and said, right, Maria, we want you, who would it be?
gosh, this is really, really tough. I think actually I was recently watching Dua Lipa's performance at the Royal Albert Hall, and I know that's so ambitious, but really performing in a really beautiful venue like that, somewhere really iconic, where you can say, actually, I played there, and
Yeah,
then you can just say, I'm gonna retire now.
yeah. I've made it. It's all good. Definitely, I appreciate that. No, first of all, I want to just say thanks for coming in on the podcast. Uh, really appreciate it. Like I say, I appreciate you giving us your time just to speak to you, and I wish you all the best for the future. And if there's any other updates that you have, just let us know, and I'll link it on the Instagram, and we can help promote it, because I'm going through the process personally now with my DJ where I'm promoting stuff for myself, and I understand the whole other job it is to promote an event. So
Yeah,
yeah, we could put up something on the Instagram if you've got any gigs or anything, so that anyone that listens and they maybe live close to the venue can come and see yourself perform. And yeah, so
thank
like I
you.
say, appreciate you coming on the podcast, and yeah, I wish you all the best in the future. I'm glad we've dealt with the self-doubt situation. I'm going to mention it anyway. Of the X Factor. It was a rubbish
Yeah,
program anyway. I'm going to say that publicly. It was a rubbish program, and they did not need you, because you're already good as you are. And I'm not saying that to
thank
be
you.
nice. Just to be clear to everyone that's listening, I genuinely mean it. Like I say. So yeah, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Okay,
having me.
I'll leave you to it. You have a nice evening, and speak to you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
In the mix with DJ Rambo Rich.